name of Allah, God, the beneficent, the most merciful, I bear witness there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hotel. And what up?
What up?
I would like to first begin by thanking God for allowing me to be here. Just very humbled by the proclamations and the beautiful words. Never ever in my life have I received a proclamation, so I was wondering what Shahid Muhammad she was talking about. I would like to also thank our hard-working sister soldier on the battlefield for education. Can we give it up one more time for Sister Eva Doyle?
Yes.
That's a straight-up soldier. We thank the mayor, we thank the city council, thank everyone that had something to do with putting this program on for the proclamations. And we thank, most importantly, you all for coming out on a Saturday afternoon to hear something about mathematics. You don't know how blown away I am that there's people in the seat. Now, the title she gave me to deal with is Building Mathematical Power in Students of Color. Now, in order to build anything, you have to first make an assessment of what's already there. So every building that goes up, I get a little loud. Every building that goes up, we first have to assess what's already on the land. Is that right?
Yes.
An analysis must be made to see how strong the foundation is, because you cannot build anything without a strong foundation. So the question is, what is the state, the condition of students of color in regards to mathematics achievement? Well, many of you already know. That's why you all are here. But before we even go to students of color, let's just look at America in general. What is the state of the American students overall in regards to mathematics? And if we know the statistics, we will see that we are in a state of emergency. It is really cold red when we look at how our students are performing versus other students on the planet Earth.
Yes, sir.
So let us bring up some stats. These statistics here are the international test that they give for 8th graders and 12th graders. So we see U.S. students, that's overall, ranked 28th out of 41 for math. That's not good at all. And then 12th graders ranked 19 out of 21. That's doggone near the bottom. So here we have all the biggest, richest country on the planet. But when it comes to math achievement, we are at the bottom of the list in regards to international tests. Now, if we look at our report card, you know there's this organization called the National Assessment of Education Progress. They put out a report card on U.S. progress, where it says 26% of U.S. 12th graders are proficient in mathematics. Now that's proficient, that's not mastery, that's just proficient. Then 39% do not have the math skills that's needed. Well, 39% do have the math skills needed for college entry. That means 61% of U.S. graduates coming out of school are not ready for college in mathematics. Now I teach at Malcolm X College in Chicago, and one of the main focuses that we're dealing with are what I call developmental math. We teach almost more developmental math than we do regular math. Then we do higher math. So before we even talk about students of color, we see just in America, period, mathematics achievement and proficiency is low. Now you know that if anybody else is suffering a cold, then you know black and Hispanics, we're suffering cancer. Is that right? So if the American students are doing terrible, what is happening with us, Hispanics, blacks, and Native Americans? Well, let's look at the statistics. 12% of 8th grade black boys are proficient in math, compared with 44% of white boys. In 2013, the National Assessment of Education Progress reported and showed on the bar graph that blacks scored the lowest out of all ethnic groups. The next group next to us were our Hispanic family brothers and sisters. Now, another stat that might blow your mind. 70% of special ed students are black students. Now that seems to be a very large percentage to me. I don't know how it bothers you. Then there's statistics on those labeled mentally retarded. Some studies show that black children are almost 3 times more likely to be labeled mentally retarded than their white counterparts. Now, does that mean that black children are just inherently born needing special ed? Are they just inherently born mentally retarded? Or is there maybe something going on in the educational system? Is there something going on in the educational system that labels in particular black boys troublemakers when they are not doing what the teacher wants them necessarily to do? And we're going to get into why some of them act out. Now, so as we as ethnic groups, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, are we just born inferior in mathematics? Do we just have a problem learning math? Or has something happened to all of us?
Yes.
If we check history, we know that our black, brown, and red family, we were all hit in the head by the same enemy. Is that right?
Yes.
We were robbed of our natural ability to demonstrate intellectual prowess. And definitely, we were not allowed to display skills and mastery in mathematics. Now, there's a quote that N.O.I. Muhammad came up with. He says, any man that won't treat you right, why are you expecting them to teach you right? And we have 460-year history of not being treated right, but yet we're sending our children to their schools and wondering why they're 70% labeled special ed. Wondering why they're at the bottom in mathematics proficiency. See, those in power and that subjugate people, they know that a people strong in math are hard to subjugate, hard to control, and hard to oppress. So they make sure that mathematics was not something that black, Hispanic, and Native Americans mastered. Let me bring up the testimonial of a slave. There's a book called Bullwhip Days. You need to get that book. In that book, these are slave narratives, not somebody writing down what the slave said, but this is the direct quotes from slaves. Listen to what this slave, Hal Hudson, had to say about mathematics. This is his quote now. Now, he uses a certain word. I'm going to change it just for being politically correct. He said, if I was caught trying to read or figure, which means doing mathematics, they would whip me something terrible. Master Brown would often say, my God Almighty, never do for that N-word to learn to figure. Now this is what the master said. And if he was caught reading or learning how to do math, they would whip him terribly. So this was going on the plantation. So it's no wonder now that we seem to be at the bottom in mathematic proficiency. The Honorable Muhammad said that a people who do not know mathematics will always be subject to a people that do. So if in my mind I want to keep you down, I'm going to make sure that you are not mathematically proficient, that this is something that you perceive as difficult and run away from, so that I can keep you down and keep you subjugated. So, what is the real deal? Are we just naturally born mathematically illiterate? It's just something that's not cut out for black people, for Hispanic people, for Native Americans. Well, let's go to the real deal. Now, you don't get the real deal in the schools. Because in many of the books that I learned and studied from in terms of mathematical history, you rarely see anybody black in the book. It's like we don't even exist. We didn't give any contribution at all to mathematics. Now they have something in Chicago in the city colleges called a math emporium. And this is a place where you can sit in your class and learn math and do math labs and so forth. And when you walk in the lobby, they have a wall of great mathematicians. And I looked at the wall, and this is a city college that is in the hood. And the mathematicians at that city college contributed to the wall. There was not one woman on the wall and no people of color at all. So what signal does that teach me as a black person, a Hispanic person, a Native American? You got a wall of great mathematicians and none of them look like me. Yeah. Maybe I need to keep rapping, playing ball, dancing, doing something that I see my people doing. Well, what's the real deal? The Egyptians were doing higher order, complex mathematics while the Europeans were in the Dark Ages. It was the black Moors, the black Muslims, that brought math and science to the European while they were in the Dark Ages and helped them get out of the Dark Ages. Do we have any evidence? Well, we have this thing called the Rhine Papyrus. This is just one of the many evidences that are out there. What is this Rhine Papyrus? Well, we know papyrus means paper. This is the paper that the Egyptians used, and this is where we get the word paper from. But the Rhine Mathematical Papyrus is one of the oldest preserved mathematical documents. The papyrus was about 18 feet long, 13 inches wide, and it was written in hieratic script. If I'm saying that wrong, please forgive me. On both sides with red and black ink, as you see here. It includes 85 worked out problems, most of which were arithmetic and geometric progression. There's evidence of algebra on them, evidence of geometry, evidence of calculus and beyond. But when you read historical books, they tell you that the Egyptians had a simple understanding of mathematics, that the Greeks took it to a higher level. Interesting. So the Rhine Mathematical Papyrus, which is also known as the Ames Papyrus, is the major source of our knowledge of the mathematics of Egypt. It was apparently found during illegal excavations. Very interesting. Now, we know in Egypt we have what is called the Great Pyramids of Giza. My wife and I were able to go there, look at those pyramids, and touch them. It's awe-inspiring. It'll blow you away. How in the world were they able to build that? And you got all type of theories today. Is that right? They say aliens built them. Got all type of crazy maths. Because they don't want to give the credit to the black people that had a higher form of mathematics. That's why they were able to build those pyramids. Even in the indigenous family, they had superior cultures. They built pyramids. You go down to Mexico, Cancun, you got pyramids there that look like the pyramids in Africa. Is that right? But you can't build a pyramid with low math skills. But yet we're taught that we had very little contribution to mathematics. Let's go to an article on myths, truths, and lies about mathematicians in the African diaspora. Now this was put out, very interesting, by the Department of the State University right here in Buffalo. I didn't make that up, just to impress you. Look what it says. A century before U.S. slavery was ended, slaves and even ordinary African slave traders demonstrated mathematical abilities more sophisticated than the European buyers. That means the slaves and the slave traders knew more math than those Europeans buying slaves. But yet when we came over here, they made sure they cut off the adults, raised the children as babies to be mathematically illiterate, wouldn't even let them read and write. Now, purely Eurocentric origins of mathematics can no longer be upheld. The oldest, 35,000 BC, mathematical object was found in Swaziland. The oldest example of arithmetic was found in Zaire. The 4,000-year-old Moscow papyrus contains geometry, the consequence of the formula for the volume of a truncated square pyramid. From Herodotus to Proclus to Aristotle, Egypt was the cradle of mathematics.
Say that.
From the earliest, the great Greek mathematicians, including Pythagoras, Thales, and Exodus, all learned much of their math from where? From Egypt. But our children are not getting this, so they don't think that they have the ability, the mindset to be masters of mathematics. Now the question is, what happened then? How did we go from being the originators, the creators of mathematics, to today being at the bottom of every statistic in mathematics? It has a lot to do with our culture in terms of not appreciating and valuing education, but it's got sure enough a lot to do with these school systems that are not teaching our children and preparing them mathematically. Yes. So how do we rebuild this crumbling foundation? That's what we're here to talk about. How do we put mathematical power in students of color? Well, number one, we must teach our children a thorough knowledge of self. They have to know who they are. They have to know real history, not just slave history that we give them during February. They got to go to the root. They got to go back to Africa. Then they got to know it wasn't called Africa originally. They got to go back to the creation of the sun, the moon, the stars, and know that they were there. They must have role models in mathematics that look like them. Yeah. Yes. All research shows that students that have teachers that look like them, that come from the same culture, do better than those taught by somebody else. Let me ask you this question. Would you ever go to a school and see wildebeest learning from lion teachers? No. Would you ever go to a school and see sheep being taught by wolves? We're the only people on the planet that put our children in our former slave master schools and expect everything to be all right. Look at the statistics. 85% now. Approximately 3 million of the nation's estimated 3.5 million K through 12 teachers are white. Translates into about 85%. So now you have some good white teachers that do the best that they can, but our children need to see, Hispanic children need to see, Native American children need to see teachers that look like them, speak like them, have the same culture, have the same rhythm and understanding like them. So maybe these children of ours won't be 70% put into special ed, because they're taught by somebody that understands their reality and their mindset. Where are the black, Hispanic, and Native American mathematicians that our children can look up to and have as role models? See, our children know for sure that they can sing. They know they can dance. Because on the YouTube, you got all these nay-nay videos. Is that right? They know they can do the ball. They know they can sport. They know they can play. They know they can be comedians, actors, and engineers. But what about scientists, mathematicians, and engineers? How many do they see on TV that look like them? How many do they see in the school that look like them? That has a great effect on their confidence and ability to do the mathematics. So I'm going to do a little experiment right now with you, if everybody's all right. I'm going to ask you to just raise your hand. Can you do that for me? Not now, but after the question. How many of you can name 5 black or Hispanic rappers? Just put your hand in there. You can name it 5. Black or Hispanic rappers, hip hoppers. Grab the mic and spit. Okay. Some of y'all look at me like you're crazy. How many can name me 5 black or Hispanic or Native American sports stars? Oh yeah, everybody, right? How about comedians? Actresses or actors? All right, those are difficult questions, weren't they? Now, how many can name me 5 black or Hispanic mathematicians? Wow. Look around the audience. Everywhere I go, whether it's children, adults, or teachers, I rarely get one hand that goes up. You all can? Very good. Very proud of you. Might have to have a prize for you at the end. But when I ask in college, they look at me like I curse. What do you mean? Because they can't name one. But we have some that you'll be able to see today. Imhotep, a powerful mathematician. Most of our students know Imhotep from the Mummy movies. And that Imhotep wasn't the real Imhotep. That's Hollywood Imhotep. A Caucasian. Imhotep wasn't a Caucasian. There's a bust of him right there. He was a pyramid builder, a doctor, mathematician, and engineer. See, the way we rolled back then, we didn't just major in one thing. He's majoring in 3 of the most difficult professions. Just being an engineer alone is enough. Most of us be happy to make that. This brother of ours was a doctor, mathematician, had time on the side to build pyramids. That was just his hobby. You got, here he is again, okay. You got, come on, start acting up now. Okay. Got a little, there we go. You got our sister Hypatia, who's an Egyptian mathematician. That's for all the girls in the class. Because you know there's this fallacy that math is cut out for just boys. Yes. Which I don't understand, because in my 20-something years of teaching, I found that most of my top students, many of them were the girls. Because they were more mature, more disciplined, right? Our boys, unfortunately, a lot of times are giggling and acting silly. Now, who is Philip Emeagwali? Does anybody know? Okay. Here he is right there. There's a little picture of him. Notice behind him, he's got some formulas going on. Petroleum companies hire him for his math skills. He's got serious math swag, right? So how many have ever seen him before? Maybe on BET, CNN, Time Magazine? Never seen him before, huh? Maybe 2 of y'all. And so we got some conscious people in here that might be reading or doing something. But on the regular programs, nobody knows him. How many use the internet? Put your hand in the air. How many can spell internet? Okay. Trying to get 100% hands. And some of y'all have waved your hand yet. If you use the internet, it's a shame we don't know him. Because without him, there would be no internet. He's an internet pioneer. Not only that, he's an engineer. He's a supercomputer scientist, a mathematician, and an internet pioneer. He's a self-taught mathematician. They asked him, how did you do so well in math? He said, I solve 100 math problems a day. And our children don't know him, but they on the internet all day. Yeah. Don't you think that would inspire them? Don't you think that would motivate them in the math class to know that a mathematician has something to do with the internet? And they should also know that this brother is not poor. Yes. Yeah. He's getting fat dollars, not from his rap skills, not from selling drugs, but from his mathematics. These are the things our children need to be aware of. That's right. Now, another thing that you need to do in order to build mathematical power is you got to teach children, why in the world do I need to learn math in the first place? You don't seem like nothing to me but a bunch of numbers and letters that don't make no sense. Most math classes, the math teacher rarely tells the children why they need to learn math. And if the child asks a question, you hear the same old answer. Because you need to be able to count your money. These children are very sophisticated today. That might have worked in 1940, but that's not going to work in 2015, 2016 with our children. That's right. That are technologically savvy, is that right? They want to know a real root reason of why I need to learn math. It's not just so you can count your money. Because you can pay somebody to count your money. Might not want to do that because a lot of accountants are robbing. But in my class, I give them a full PowerPoint presentation. I was going to give it to you, but time is of the essence and I can't do 2 at the same time. But I'll just give you a little appetizer of it. And I give them a thorough voyage of what they need to know of why mathematics is crucial. It's not just so you can learn. It's not just so you can go to the next level. It's not so you can get a college degree and get a job. Mathematics is universal. They need to know that when they look in the mirror, they're looking at a mathematical body. The human body is a perfectly run mathematical machine. Is that right? There's a relationship between height and weight that's mathematical. You have a certain width of arteries for a healthy blood flow to go through. You eat too much grease and fatty foods, that shrinks. That's mathematics. You slow down the blood flow. You cause heart disease. You even have a heartbeat, that's a rate. That's a mathematics. Your heart beat too fast, you get a heart attack. Your heart beat too slow, you get confined to the bed. Like in the movie John Q with Denzel Washington, that little black boy had a heartbeat that was too slow. Is that right? There's 206 bones. There's 9 systems of the body. 1 more of the brain making 10. They need to know that their whole body is mathematics. So that means if I love myself, I love mathematics because mathematics is myself. But they're not taught like that in these schools. They need to know that their body from head to toe is mathematics. I ask the students, how many of y'all like to eat? And I'll ask you, how many of y'all like food? Very good. Somebody had to prepare that food, right? First of all, the food had to come from a farm. And you can't be a farmer and not know mathematics. Because you got to know yield time. You got to know how far to put the seed in the ground. You got to know what time's to water it, what time's to cultivate it, what time is harvest time. All that's mathematics. Then when you cook food, don't you got to cook it a certain amount of time? Don't you got to cook it at a certain temperature? Don't you got fractions in the recipe? And if you don't know how to read a fraction, you don't know how to read your recipe. It's say a fourth cup of salt, and you don't know what a fourth is. So you just guesstimate. That look like about a fourth. Thing blow up in the oven. So a good cook is a mathematician. Because you got to have mathematics in order to make that food taste good. And then a good cook and baker knows how to make the food not just taste good, but look good. And when food look good, that's geometry.
All right.
If you cut that piece of pie, that's a triangle. Is that right? Some of y'all getting excited right now. Even do we have any food for them after the program? Every sport, I tell my students, uses mathematics. You cannot name me a sport where math is not used. Basketball uses high algebra 2 quadratic functions. Because when you shoot the ball, you jump up in the air, the ball travels, reaches a maximum point, and comes down. That's a parabola. That's a quadratic function. So every time LeBron slam dunks or somebody else slam, they're using a quadratic formula. They don't know about it. When you play football, you got X's and O's. That's like the variables in algebra. Is that right? You got to know how much a yard is. The coach tell you run 20 yards for the practice. You don't even know what a yard is. You're looking kind of crazy. In baseball, you got batting averages. Is that right? Yeah. How many would play pool in here? Billions. You got to hit it at the right speed. Is that correct? You got to hit it at the right angle. Yes, when you dive into the water, you got to dive at the right angle or you can break your neck hitting the water. Every sport requires mathematics. See, if the students knew this, then now everything I'm looking at, everything I'm dealing with, mathematics is required. I better get my math on.
Yes, sir.
But as long as it's something you need to go to the next level, it's something you need because you got to count your money, then they tuned out. But you got to show them math is important. What about music? You can't make good music without mathematics.
That's right.
Now, there is bad music. That's music that's not mathematical. But every music that you like, R&B, hip-hop, salsa, whatever, it's got a beat to it, it's got rhythm to it, that means it's got mathematics. Yeah. So what I'm going to do for you, what I do for the students, I'm going to kick 2 beats for you. Yes, this little skinny body, I'm going to beatbox for you. The first beat is not going to have any mathematics. And you tell me whether you like it. The second beat is going to be mathematical. That means there's going to be a pattern, there's going to be rhythm, there's going to be a numerical sequence there. Are you ready? You sound kind of weak. Are you ready?
Yes.
Here's the first one without math. That's terrible, isn't it? Now here's a beat with mathematics. Are you ready? That's mathematics. When you sing a song, you got to be in tune with what? The beat. So when you all do karaoke, is that right? Hopefully you're not drunk when you do it. You in tune with the beat. That's mathematics. Movies, when they make movies, they have stunts. They have a stunt coordinator. If you are the stunt person, you don't want your stunt coordinator or your stunt engineer to have a C in math.
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't do the stunt. Because there's many movies, I don't have a PowerPoint available, but there's many movies where stunt went bad. And a lot of times it went bad because of mathematics. There's this movie Vampire in Brooklyn. One of the few African-American female stunt people. She's dead today. She jumped off the building at the wrong angle. Wow. Geometry. She hit the airbag at the wrong spot, died instantly. Wow. That's how serious it is to get your math on. But our students don't know this. Video games, they need to know the language of a computer is mathematics. Yeah. The computer don't speak Japanese. It don't speak Swahili. It don't speak Espanol. The computer uses what? Binary. So without mathematics, you ain't got no God of War. You don't have no Madden. You don't have any Xbox or PlayStation. Wouldn't that disappoint your children? And wouldn't it give them a greater appreciation for math to let them know, I'm going to buy you this Xbox. But if it wasn't for math, you wouldn't be able to play. Why don't you drop that on? I'll get you the PlayStation. But you can't play nothing if it wasn't for mathematics. Every profession from janitor all the way up to nuclear physicist. You can't do your job without mathematics. I could go on, but we got to move on for time. Now, another thing that has to happen in order to build mathematical power is we have to connect the math world to the children's world. The math world to the students' world, because there's a big disconnect, because they don't see the relevance of it. Let's see if that's in our research. Well, I'm sorry, I forgot I got to give you the mathematicians. These are some of the great black mathematicians. Okay? Now there's another slide where I had the female mathematicians. I apologize, but that's on my other PowerPoint. Okay? Oh, here we go. We have them up there. Good. And here's our Hispanic family. See, if I'm a Hispanic student, I need to know somebody look like me can do good at math. If I'm a black student, I need to know somebody that look like me can master math. So I got what? Confidence, fuel, and inspiration.
Yeah.
Look what these researchers found out. Lower math achievement of minority students, particularly black students, may be indicative of what? The curriculum and the instruction. That's part of the problem. School math, the curriculum, assessment, and pedagogy are all aligned with cultural experiences of the white middle class. And this is why our students are tuned out from the school, because it don't relate to them. And particularly in the math class, if you don't integrate their world with the math world, they are totally tuned out. So what do? They get involved with something else. And then it's how they get suspended and expelled. The math instruction that many black students receive is in opposition to their cultural styles and learning preferences. So it's time that we integrate their world in the math world, or we're going to lose them. It's picture time now. What I'm going to do is take a picture of you all. If you all don't mind. I have a special camera that as soon as I take the picture, it goes immediately to my PowerPoint slide. So once I take the picture, the next slide that you see will be the picture I took. I'm going to try to get a wide view and get as many as possible. Chin chin. Okay. The next slide will be the picture I just took.